Let's start with things to consider in writing business letters. Okay, so these are some of the things that you should definitely think about as you're writing your business letters before you ship them off or you send them off to whoever is going to read your business letter. Remember to use formal language and avoid any typographical errors. So again, this is a big one that a lot of people miss, and it's going to be mentioned a lot here in this page. Formal language is very important in a business setting. Being professional and keeping your image professional and using formal language is extremely important, as well as making sure that you don't have spelling mistakes. Especially when it comes to typing nowadays, like a lot of people might be good at, not making spelling errors when writing things down, but when you're typing, sometimes you type too quickly, you miss a key or two, things happen. So make sure that when you're typing, you don't make any spelling mistakes and use formal language. Start the letter with a friendly opening. Similar to emails, you guys remember when we talked about how when writing a letter or just writing in general, you can appear cold or mean if you don't use your words carefully. It's the same concept. If you want a great reply, someone that enjoys reading your letter, and is generally in a good mood, you want to start your letter in a friendly manner. State your reason for writing a business letter. Again, you're not going to write a business letter out of pleasure. This is not a personal letter, so give a reason as to why you're writing this letter. Always have an idea to whom you're writing. My opinion is that you should have at least a vague idea of the person that's going to be reading your letter. Like if someone asks you who is this business letter to, you don't just say, "Oh, it's to X company," and then that's it. No, it's a better idea to at the very least know, hey, which department is going to be reading my letter. If it's even better if you know the name of the person that's going to be reading a worker, an employer, depends. So just having a brief idea of whom you're writing to greatly helps you choose your words. Okay, specify necessary details like time, date, venue, and any other important details that are, uh, important to what you're talking about or writing about. So sometimes you'd see people, they write great business letters, but they forget to mention necessary details. So they might mention that, oh, we have a new product that's going to be coming in that they're releasing to the market, but they never specify the time, or if there's a date, venue, they don't add that as well. And then there has to be more letters just for these necessary details that could have been added the first time. So make sure that you keep all your necessary details within that first letter. Which brings me to my next point, be to the point and straightforward. Again, you're not going to be writing a novel, guys, so make sure that your letter is straight to the point and doesn't have any unnecessary words, which we'll touch on that again later on. Write the letter with a polite tone, but avoid being overly personal. Okay, so that goes without saying when writing an email or a business letter, you want to make sure that you're using a polite tone, but at the same time, you don't want to be too personal or too nice. Use a polite tone, but be professional and formal. I'll use all of this within reason, and you should have a great business letter on your hands. Keep the letter short and concise and with specific details. Again, this is basically a conclusion of the some of the previous points above. You want it short and to the point. You don't want to read it too long. You don't want the person to sit there and have to read your letters or letter for a long time. So mention the specific details, mention what you want, get to the point, and that's it. Do not write long introductions and unnecessary statements. Okay, so some people they write great business letters, right? It's short to the point, all that stuff. But there's a slight problem with it, and that is the introduction is too long. They think that a long introduction maybe uh, gives them a better chance of a yes, for example, from the other company if they're asking them for something, or that it's courtesy to have a long introduction, just praising the other person. It's not like that. Long introductions in general can be quite boring, no matter who they're from. So just get to the point, use a normal introduction, short, concise, and any unnecessary statements should be removed from the business letter. Next one is very important. Check for grammatical errors and spelling mistakes. We've talked about this before. This comes off without saying, but if your letter is a great letter but has grammatical errors and spelling mistakes, then you come off looking goofy. People don't take you seriously. And most of all, again, you don't maintain that professional and formal look that we always strive for in a business setting. So, again, after you write your letter or even during, make sure that it's free of grammatical errors and any spelling mistakes. Avoid usage of slangs or messaging language as that does not indicate professionalism. Uh, a lot of people, especially young adults nowadays, I myself am guilty of this one, is they tend to use slang because we as young adults tend to text a lot more than we speak or write in a formal way. They sort of cross paths, so sometimes you go ahead and say something like "yeah" or IRL or LOL to someone that you probably shouldn't say that to, like a boss or a coworker, for example. That is not professional at all, and you should avoid using slangs and messaging language like that because, again, it takes away from the seriousness in a business setting. Cut useless words, needless information, and stale phrases. Sometimes there are words that contribute absolutely nothing to the business letter. They are there just for show. In that case, make sure that just write your letter and any words that you think are too much, words like really or very, are not needed most of the time. So get rid of them. Any extra information that you might have written that are not really contributing to the details of the information in the business letter should be removed. And again, if you notice any stale phrases, get rid of those as well. Use familiar words, short sentences and paragraphs, and a simple conversational style. I want to focus on the very first part first. Use familiar words. Look, you're not impressing anyone by using words that are hard to understand. This is not an IELTS exam where you get bonus points for having a better vocab. As long as your words are clear enough to be understood and your grammar is good and understandable, then that is great. So make sure you use words that are understandable. Don't use don't use dictionary words that I'd have to go and look up what it means just to understand what your point is. Short sentences and paragraphs are also better. You don't want to write a paragraph that is way too long, or your letter to be in one long paragraph. It just comes off looking weird. So short sentences and paragraphs are much better. Again, just think of it as a conversation more so than it is a letter. So notice how you would talk to someone in a professional and formal way, of course, within reason, and put that down on a paper or type it, whatever. And there you go. You got a business letter, which brings me to my next point. Write as if you were talking to the reader and be as friendly as possible. We just talked about this. Again, think of it as you talking to the person. Whenever there's something serious going on at work and you want to talk to that person, be it a manager, boss, coworker, whatever, you'd go to them and you would start talking, and you would make sure that for the most part it is formal, friendly, and polite. Do the same exact thing with business letters, but please don't use slang and messaging language. If possible, the business letter should not be handwritten and should be typed as it looks more professional and the letters are visible. Okay, let me tell you something here. Some of us don't have the best handwriting, right? Some people have great handwriting, some people have terrible handwriting, and some people are in between. So to add that part into your head of are they going to understand my handwriting, that's in my opinion unnecessary stress that you really don't need. You could technically handwrite a business letter, but whenever possible, which I think is very possible nowadays with technology, you should probably type it down instead and then print it out. Not only does it give it a more professional look, but you don't have to worry about the other person struggling to understand what you're saying because letters and numbers are all going to be visible. Finally, close the letter by thanking the person for their time and consideration. This one goes without saying. Just make sure that you thank the person for their time, cooperation, and their consideration to read your business letter.